Hello and welcome back. Today, I want to talk about consistency and what to do when you're showing up, but it doesn't feel like it's working yet. I want to share how vital it is to keep going, even when things don't feel like they're working out for you in the way you had hoped. I have my own story to share on this in the hope that it will inspire you to keep going when things aren't bringing the tangible results you are aiming for. And my story relates to this podcast. As you know, if you've been with me here for a while, I launched this podcast back in January 2025, on my birthday, in fact. So I will always remember the anniversary, or rather the birthday of this podcast. The funny thing is that I actually planned to launch in December 2024. Life, business, and illness prevented that from happening. And when I realized I wasn't going to hit that original deadline, excuse me, I chose to delay the launch until my birthday. And now that feels exactly like the day it was always meant to happen on. It's funny the way that often happens, right? Anyway, I digress somewhat. Back to this story. Yes, I launched the podcast in January 2025. The goal was not only to share my wisdom, my thoughts, my knowledge, and my experience with you guys, but also to generate leads for my business. Yes, I hate to break this to you, but this is a marketing strategy for my business. One where you, I hope, get heaps of value and I also gain from it. A win-win situation, if you like, for all concerned. This is what I want to share with you today. When you're creating something like this, you don't always see the impact straight away. In fact, for a long time, it can feel like you're speaking into the void. You're showing up, you're recording, you're sharing, and there's no immediate feedback, no instant results. And that's where consistency gets really fucking hard because the work comes long before the reward. And that's exactly what I felt when it comes to this podcast. So let me share with you what's come up for me over the past 12 months or so and why I am still here recording this for you, despite some quite serious wobbles along the way. Let's start with stats and actually probably more comparison and the damage it can often do. I had watched other people launch podcasts and share their stats. And there is one person in particular who springs to mind. She often shared how many people had tuned into her podcast and how many clients she was gaining from it too. And I vividly remember her sharing on her own podcast anniversary that there had been 13,000 downloads or listens of her podcast in just 1 year. Now, on the one hand, I thought, blimey, that is incredible. It's amazing. And yes, I celebrated with her on this. I celebrated for her. I wanted to celebrate her achievements because they are incredible. On the other hand, it made me feel like I was failing. I was nowhere near those numbers. I questioned myself. I questioned what I was sharing. I questioned whether it was worth it. I questioned whether to stop altogether. It was not a good feeling. I really felt like all the hard work, energy, time, and commitment I was giving to my own podcast, the one you're listening to right now, wasn't hitting the mark. It wasn't resonating with people. It wasn't creating the impact I wanted it to create. It simply didn't feel like it was worth it. In my head, I knew this wasn't really true, but in my heart, that's how I felt. But this is the thing. We all get moments like this in business. Moments when comparisonitis creeps in and makes us doubt ourselves, our capabilities, our strategies, our choices, even. Moments when we wonder whether it's really worth it. Moments when we question whether to carry on. It's both normal and really fucking frustrating for us as business owners. We know that we really want to be self employed. We know that we have something to offer. We know it will be worth it. And yet we still doubt it. And that's exactly where I was at. So I did a few things. I stepped back from my podcast for a while. You might have noticed things dipped a little towards the back end of last year, and that's why. I needed time away from this space and from my weekly commitments to pep talks and to you, so that I could reevaluate what I wanted from this podcast. Ultimately, I needed to decide whether I wanted it to be part of my marketing strategy or not. And the fact that you are listening to this today tells you the conclusion I came to. I should add, I didn't just reevaluate this from a business perspective. I also reevaluated it from an energy perspective. I checked in with what brings me energy in my business and what drains it. I checked in with what brings me joy in my business and what doesn't. And again, the fact that you are listening to this tells you the conclusions I came to on both of these fronts. I guess I should also share this one piece of content that takes me around 2 hours in total to create, helps me in the rest of my marketing too. It has proved to be a really powerful resource from which I can create emails, social media posts, prompts from my free journaling circle, and a blog for my website. Repurposing this one piece of content, something that I enjoy creating, not only saves me time and energy, but ensures I am consistent with my other marketing too. And when you look at it like that, it's a bit of a no-brainer to not carry on with it. But that only works if the original piece of content is something that you love creating. And my creation process for these episodes is something I love going through. Sitting and writing these scripts is almost like a self-coaching session for me, a way to get my thoughts out onto paper in readiness to record this for you. I love creating this longer form content that can be repurposed into short form content for elsewhere in my marketing plan. Something I want to touch on at this point, and before I talk about the action I took regarding the person on social media who triggered me, because they are related, is that I have gone back to scripting these episodes. Not because I can't record an episode from a list of bullet points. After all, I recorded a few like that at the back end of last year. But because the process of writing a script is me processing exactly what I want to share. It's my thinking time. It's my thinking process. And it took me a while to honor that after hearing this same person on social media share that you're not confident in what you want to share if you have to write a script. Good old self-doubt creeping back in there as a result of that one person and what they believe to be true. I thrashed these doubts out with someone whose views I respect, my husband, someone who also prepares talks and presentations on a regular basis. And through that discussion, I came to the conclusion that I've just shared, that writing these words on this page and then reading them to you helps me to process everything in my head, which then means you get a beautifully clear and concise podcast episode from me. It also means I have a transcript to feed into ChatGPT, which helps me to do all the repurposing I spoke about earlier. So coming back to this person who triggered me with her podcast stats and her "you must record podcasts this way" messaging, I took some action to enable me to step away from that narrative. I muted her on my social media accounts, not just because of what she'd shared about her podcast, but also because her content as a whole leaves me feeling like I'm not hitting the mark like she is. I absolutely admire her for what she's created in her business, and I wish her the very best. But by watching her content, it made me feel less than her. It made me feel less capable than I know I am. The absolute opposite of what she was aiming for, by the way. It impacted on my energy. It prevented me from showing up in the ways that feel good for me, in my way, all of which, of course, had a knock on effect to my motivation, my drive, and my passion for my business, as well as the actions I was taking each day to create the business and life I fucking know I deserve. If you are currently following someone who makes you feel like this person did for me, I really recommend you mute them or even unfollow them. I can promise you it will alter your trajectory in ways you can't even imagine. Muting that person on social media has had the best effect on me. I feel more confident showing up in the ways that work for me. I feel more confident in my messaging. I feel more confident to do things my way. Comparisonitis is not only the killer of joy, it's also the killer of ambition and action. Mute, unfollow, do whatever you need to do, get my teeth in, do whatever you need to do to remove that comparisonitis and focus on you instead. And here we are now on the 16th of February, as I'm recording this, and the story has shifted. The story I was telling myself about this podcast has changed, in part because I did the things I've shared above, and in part because a couple of weeks ago, I was on a sales call, the outcome of which was that a new client signed up to work with me. Someone who shared on that sales call, I am absolutely the right person for her because she's been listening to these podcast episodes every week for the last 12 months. And she's gone back to listen to previous episodes on repeat. That one call, that one person, that one reminder has fully affirmed for me why I am here doing this. If I can change just one person's life as a result of this podcast, then it's been worth it, particularly given everything else I've shared in this episode. Sometimes we need that validation, right? So if you're in that season right now where you're showing up and wondering if it matters, keep going. You might already be changing someone else's life without even knowing it. Consistency is often hardest when you can't yet see proof that it's working. But that doesn't mean it isn't creating impact behind the scenes. And if you've been listening for a while, I'd love it if you sent me a message or left a review, just so I know these conversations are landing. You might already be changing someone else's life without even knowing it.